Good morning, all of you, and welcome to this second session of the conference, Evolution of Connectivity, Fixed and Mobile and Security Services. If I make a link with the previous session, I could say that previously we discussed that we confirmed the need of increasing flow of data in our networks. And we discuss also from Daniele, for example, what does it mean, the human resources in the evolution of a telco infrastructure in 2023 and following years. With this session, we try to make a step ahead towards a more detailed discussion, addressing how the evolution of the fixed services is in front of us, and together with the overwhelming security threats. I start making a general comment. We have seen the increasing flow of data. If we look at the networks, telecom networks in 2023, so as a first point, there is an increasing flow of data. Daniele reported at a double size of traffic nearly every 2 years. Then we have to say that technically even the speed of the circuits is increasing. 800 gigabit, it's a reality. At 800 gigabit trunks, it's a reality. As this means that 400 circuit for customer, for telcos are a reality. The second point that I'd like to draw to your attention is softwareization. Allow me to say this. So everything is software. In the old days, there were hardware and software, firmware and software. I should say that now we can install software on COTS servers, so standard servers. And this means the softwareization implies a new network architecture, of course. There is the move to the cloud, of all the applications, the development of 5G, and I mentioned it once more, the overwhelming security threats. And it's useless to discuss why in the recent years security has increased its relevance. So my first question to Paolo and to Lionel. First of all, introduce yourself. I beg your pardon. Please, Paolo.
Sure. So my name is Paolo Maestripieri. I'm sales director for service provider for EMEA at Cato Networks. In few words, Cato Networks, we are among the leaders for single vendor SASE. That is interesting. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have been recognized leader for the single vendor SASE in the Forrester Wave, challenger in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for SASE, and outperforming the Loro. And the latest is, I want to talk because it's very new, fresh of press release. We've got 230 million additional funding 2 days ago. And our company has been now evaluated $3.1 billion. And that is a great achievement of being a company created in 2015.
My name is Lionel Ho. So I'm the director in Singapore Telecoms. For those of you who don't know Singapore Telecoms, we are Asian specialists, but we are with a global reach. So my primary role in Singtel is I lead a team of solution architects providing solutions to our customers in Europe. And these are primarily large enterprises. And my team specializes in providing WAN services, SD-WAN, implementing SASE solutions. We look at IoT as well. I've got a secondary role, and that's certainly to identify key partners like yourselves to see how we can integrate these other new technology solutions into what we can provide for our customers. So looking forward to speak to all the other partners out there. Yeah.
Before starting, I have to bring you the apologies of Mr. Sami Said to Initiate Telecom. Maybe you have read his name on the banner. Yesterday afternoon, we've been informed that he is sick. So I bring you his apologies on behalf of him. So after my short introduction, I'd like to start with that. My first question to the panelists. Having described that scenario with all the implication on the capacity, on the technicality, on the software, on the human resources, which are the winning solution, fixed and mobile, that a telecom provider has to pursue in the next medium-term years? Lionel?
It's a very good question. Winning solution, is it fixed or is it mobile? I think it's neither. I think it's both. Both are winning. Both will need to be strongly looked at, and both needs to be developed. Why? Once again, I think the price point for fixed in generally speaking, is still more cost effective. Mobile, you have the benefits of quick implementations. You have the benefits of quick startups and all that, right? But the issues there would still be stability to many of my enterprise customers. Just to share with you, in Singtel, we are still clearly developing fixed networks. Very recently, we have even upgraded our passive optical network within Singapore to support a 10G network. So what does this mean? Every family in Singapore would be connected by 10G. This is just on the consumer front. Think about this in the enterprise side of things as well. So it's very exciting times, and we are clearly still upgrading, still trying to find new technologies to bring higher bandwidth to the edge, to our consumers even. On the mobile front, I think it's really exciting with 5G. In Singtel, we do a lot of network splicing, frequency splicing. I think we'll talk a bit more about this later, but lots of exciting opportunities. We're looking at, nowadays there's talks about 6G. We're developing that. There's Wi-Fi 6E, Wi-Fi 7. So lots of development on the mobile front as well. So these are certainly solutions we in Singtel are looking at and still developing. As I always say, there's no one solution that fits all. I've got customers who run huge factories across 3 acres, all automated, right? So they need a different solution from a customer who is doing agriculture. It's in the middle of nowhere. They need to have, robots right out in the field. And these locations might be miles, hundreds of miles away from the nearest town or even the city. So for my team, it's really exciting because I get to see all these different technologies being used. And so once again, there's really no one shoe that fits all, right? Your question then on security as well, and on certainly once this happens, I think security is always something that's really important. More so with 5G, where all edge devices are so disparate and all really spread out across the field. How then do you secure all these edge devices, especially now that you are introducing the man-in-the-middle attack, right? Anybody who sits between a frequency, it's a potential, hacker or black hat. So these are things we certainly need to look at as we solution, as we provide a new technology and a new solution to our customers.
Thank you.
So, all fields.
Thank you, Lionel. So if I have to take the major message from your statement is we are providing capacity, fixed and mobile, to our customer, and we will try to build up solution on the basis of this capacity. Am I right?
Absolutely.
And let's listen to Paolo and Kate.
From a cybersecurity perspective, what we see overall, this trend means that employees will be more and more outside of the enterprise environment while accessing the business critical application. That in parallel to the migration or to the cloud of all the applications. So what is the impact of that on the cybersecurity infrastructure is that the legacy model of building a perimeters around the branch offices, around the data center to protect the branch office, the data center, and to connect them with a dedicated line becomes useless because you are trying to protect nobody, because nobody is in the office, and or very few, and the application are no more in the data center. So to answer to these new challenges, enterprise have started adopting point solution. I have my employee was working from home with a 10 gig lines. I have to secure, I have to build ZTNA, and then to secure and to provide a zero trust access solution. And then I need to provide control to the cloud applications. And so I have to introduce CASB, and so on and so on. The result from a cybersecurity perspective is that the solutions start to be extremely complex to manage, to orchestrate. And when there is complexity, you are broadening your attack surface. Our point of view is that because there is this transformation, you have to change the paradigm. Instead of addressing each cybersecurity challenge with a point solution, you have to deliver a platform. And SASE is the answer to that.
Yes, but you have indirectly put on the table my next issue. Again, moving from the general framework more in detail on fixed services, I think it's unquestionable that the SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, is not a trend, is a consolidated way to provide services or converge services in 2023 and next few years. If I were a customer, if I were a CTO of a customer, I have to confess I would be confused because there are plenty of solutions under the label of SASE, from the big telcos up to small providers. I know that there is MEF, for example, who is trying to provide a framework, not standardized, provide a framework for ZTNA and SASE. And my question to you, Paolo, being a Cato representative, and then also to Singtel, how to help the customer to select the right choice in this confused vendors. So there is plenty of offers. I do remember that 35 has been counted on the market. Different. There are convergent like Cato. There are multi-vendor. So the Cato views on the market.
So we are somehow...
Just a second. Yeah. I assume all of you know what is SASE. Otherwise, you can spend 1 minute.
Yeah. We are somehow proud because Cato Network has been created in 2015, and from 2015 we define a platform that has to be identity-driven, cloud-native, global, all edges, to deliver converged networking and security services. So at the end of the day, SASE, what is delivering to the end customer the SD-WAN experience, the SSE experience, including all the security and cybersecurity functionalities. Now, what is the innovation in SASE? SASE is not innovation in terms of features, because we are always delivering the same feature of SD-WAN, next-gen firewall, secure web gateway, IPS, CASB, DLP, and so on and so forth. What is new is the customer experience. You have to deliver a SASE experience to the customer. I can name one of our customer, Carlsberg, was talking about Cato Networks after the deployment back in June of this year. And everybody knows that Apple is the reference of the customer experience and customer satisfaction. Carlsberg said that the Cato experience is the Apple of the networking and security. In reality, because why that? Because you can build a SASE solution Dutch taping different technologies, building an orchestration layer on top of it. But that means that, yeah, maybe you are removing part of the complexity to the customer, but you are insourcing that complexity if you are a service provider. You can address SASE with a single vendor, but then this is another note that we have to be very careful, is that single vendors doesn't mean platform. There is a single vendor portfolio, or the single vendor say, I'm offering all the SASE building blocks, but they are coming from acquisition and so are not fully integrated and are single vendor platform providers, such as Cato Networks, where our platforms provide all the networking and security services in a converged way with a single pass algorithm. And that gives a much better experience to the end customer in terms of agility, flexibility, reliability, simplicity of configuration and performance. So for me, it's important, of course, to define a framework of functionalities and features that has to be included in the SASE model, but is much more important to try to standardize how this feature has to be delivered to the end customer.
It's very challenging. But Lionel, so Paula has described the basic feature of the Cato solution. What is the Singtel position versus the provision of SASE services?
Yeah, no, for sure as well. But before I answer that question, Alessandro, I think to add to Paolo's point as well, I think a lot of my customers also find issues with having a portal and then to extract these information for AIs, for correlation of other elements within the network. So I agree with what you are saying. And I think one important point to add here as well is it's the visibility once these are all pulled out. So, and coming to your question now, Alessandro, so from Singtel's point of view, right, as we deliver a WAN network, so we've got customers coming to us with various sort of requirements, right? I only want you to provide WAN. I only want you to provide SD-WAN. So there's all sorts of, and only SASE or a combination of that. So we have clearly, it's a large permutation of customers' requirements. But clearly, from a provider's point of view, we would always like our customers to come to us and say, look, just provide me everything, right? So if you ask me to build a framework, it will be one where a customer comes to me and say, look, deliver everything. But jokes aside, right? It is important, I feel, that elements of SD-WAN and SASE are at least grouped together. Why? Because we all know, right? If something gets attacked, where does this attack come from? It will come from your WAN circuit. It will come from a connectivity somehow. So it's not very much point, or at least the reaction time will not be as quick if you have a multi-vendor approach. What does this mean, right? If the security company detects it, there would still be some element of time before the WAN connection is told, hey, look, we need to, right, maybe hard cut this link or this connectivity. So this is obviously the most serious situation and scenario. But if you look at, I'm sure most of you know Splunk, right? This is something we use a lot to aggregate or collate information between all the various security elements of, well, I shouldn't just say Splunk. There are many other vendors out there, but they are the market leaders at the moment. Once again, coming back to the point of visibility, collating the information, making sense of it all, right? Or, before you make a human decision. So that portal, once again I spoke about, is really critical because, once again, it's not always a DDoS attack you face because your marketing department might have pushed out a really good advertisement and suddenly everybody's visiting your site and your website. you don't want to be bringing those down as well. So having everything visible and having, a correlated information, that is absolutely key to me. So my final statement here is, we would always try to encourage customers to let a single vendor manage the network and security at the same time.
There is another aspect which brings me a lot of questions. In the old days, the business model were very clear. There was a vendor providing boxes, hardware with some software to a service provider, and the service provider telco who satisfies the customer requirement. Clean. Even in the last 7-8 years, this clean scenario is much, much more complicated. There is Cato in front of us. I don't know whether to classify Cato as a service provider or a vendor or both. It's very, very well known. Now we are discussing SASE, but the same statements, same remarks are valid for a number of services that even big telcos, the top on this planet, rely on partners. Now, the question is, in terms of business models, partnership, how the scenario has been changed, which is the role of a generic, a standard telco, and which is the role of a provider like Cato in 2025, 26. Who likes to start?
I can take it. By the way, this is the reason why Cato hired me 1 year ago to build this partnership with service provider. And the question is, indeed, when you are delivering cloud services, there is always the first question coming from the service provider saying, I'm used to operate the platform. Now that I'm using you as a partner, but you own the platform, how I can make money, how I can differentiate myself against the competition, what is my added value? And that is changing completely the relationship, because we have really to work towards a partnership and break the vendor service provider model. Typically, and you were saying Cato Network is the service provider. I wouldn't say that. We are a SASE provider. And our ambition is to work with the service provider. Now, if we are asking to the service provider, please resell our platform and that's it, it will never fly. It will never fly because there is no customer stickiness from a standpoint of the service provider. So what we are doing is putting in place all the enabler to a service provider to build and customize the service for the end customers. So we are opening all the API in read and write to integrate Cato Networks into the orchestration platform of the service provider. We can customize look and feel and colors and branding and create a white label service. We have the airbag to define clearly the role-based access control functionality, to define responsibility among us, the service provider that operate the service on behalf of the customer, and the customer, the multi-tenancy. So all the functionalities that helps the service provider in create a unique proposition. Because even if...
But the service is always managed by Cato.
The platform. The platform. We are putting the cloud firewall, but who is going to customize the security policy in the cloud platform will be the service provider that is delivering the service to the end customer.
Your partner, which acts as a service provider.
Exactly. And by the way, again, I'm sorry for coming back to the initial press release of our 230 additional million of funding. There are 3 acts of investments where we will put this money. One of the 3 elements is augmenting even more our functionality to help service provider in delivering managed services. Because this is where we see the future going. SASE is the ultimate convergence of network and security. But customer is purchasing much more service for the service provider, from telephony to IP-centrics to LAN management. They have the holistic view of what the customer needs. So for me, it's better to provide the tools to help the service provider integrating Cato in the larger ecosystem to allow the service provider to deliver a better service to the end customer.
Lionel, which is the Singtel policy towards a partnership, alternative business models?
I won't answer your question directly, but I'll come to your question. I think it's partnerships are interesting, and I think your question to Paolo is also interesting. I think personally, I feel not all principal providers for security. I was just trying, as you asked the question, I'm thinking which security company or principal is trying to get into the SI space, right? Certainly during the SD-WAN days, a couple of years ago, you had many SIs trying to come into the carrier space, but I don't see this phenomena happening with the security side of things. I think we spoke a couple of days ago as well. You said, yeah, AWS, they're selling 5G as well now, right? So the cloud people are coming into the 5G space. So is there a preferred model so coming back to your answer now, right? Is there a preferred model for an SI, or is there some way we would like to deal with as a carrier? So as usual, clearly I'm sure we've all been selling it this way, where we say, hey, look, come to us, because ultimately, what is your base structure? That is your WAN service, right? That is the building block of all your other services. We've all been coming in with that. And that's true. That is true, right?
This is in the hand of Singtel. And
this is in the hand of Singtel and carriers who are providing this structure. So we still have a very strong position to play, right? I have customers coming to me now, all of us do, with they are not breaking SLAs. They're not breaking up SLAs anymore. They come to us and say, look, we want an end-to-end service. I'm sure we hear that a lot, right? How do you then, as a customer, expect to have end-to-end services if you have a multi-vendor approach? You can't. It's very difficult, right? The demarcation points will need to be drawn up very extremely clearly, number one. Then how do you measure it? When something happens, you get people pushing away responsibilities, and that's what we see a lot. So if you ask me, and my advice to my customers as well, is to certainly use use a single vendor. Now, back to your question then, how should we then partner each other, right? Then clearly, that problem from customer is now pushed to us. So once again, I think our demarcation points must be very clear. Certainly, our multiplexers, or rather, right, whatever devices we have, most of it is multiplexers. Some of it are layer 3, layer 4 devices from the cloud, where our probes. These are the items which we need to really talk about as we form our partnership, right? We need to be clear among ourselves. And with this very clear definition of where the demarcation point, what the SLAs are, who's going to do what at what particular point when there's a failure, that's when we can wrap our services together, right? And then take it to our customers and say, look, end-to-end SLA is real and we can deliver it. And if we need to prove it, if they need to audit that, sure, let's show them, right? Our partnership we've formed as principals, as fellow carriers, that's what we can do. That's my vision. And I think it's something that can drive business.
I'd like to cover now the other part of the other items of this panel related to the mobile services. Mobile services, as of today, means 5G. 5G consumer, 5G infrastructure, first of all, then 5G consumer, and 5G for corporates. So 5G as of today means 3GPP release 17, if I'm right. and release 18 should be approved in the next month. And 5G consumer means the deployment of standalone 5G core network, which is Open RAN, of course. And we can say honestly that the deployment and the revenues are just a little bit disappointed for all the carriers. But enlarging from consumer to corporates, and of course always to telcos, there is the large issue and the large use case devoted to private 5G networks. So last year, I reported some figures of the Berg Institute, mentioning 300, for as of 2022, 300 private LTE/5G networks trials or under implementation, with a CGA rate of 57%. Now, in 2023, I was surprised, and I share with you, reading that AWS provides 5G private networks, private services for corporates. And I do suppose that the target of this offering is not the very large companies, but also, let's say, medium-sized companies. Having said that, as an introduction, which are the opportunities in this area for Singtel, for service provider like Cato? Lionel?
5G has been a very useful technology for Singapore telecoms, very much so. Maybe let me start off by giving you some examples, and then we can talk a little bit more about why it is so, right? So we helped the port, we helped automated factories, whom used to, right? So if you think about it, they are all the appliances, all their devices are all really spread out across. And they are mobile as well, right? So you've got cranes moving around, you have things on ships. How do you track them? How do you communicate with them? How do you get them to synergize and work together? So back in the past, it was through Wi-Fi or some type of wireless technology. This day and age, we know, we turn on your Wi-Fi device, right? You see about at least 15 to 20 SSIDs being flashed out. The bandwidth of 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz are fully congested. So likewise, whilst all these companies have their setups, they realize as well there are lots of frequency interference. So what we did in Singtel was through 5G's ability to frequency splice. So clearly, like every carrier, we would have bought a spectrum from the country, right? From the governing agency within each country. So 5G has given us the ability to splice frequency, and these would be individual clean frequencies we can assign to a particular customer or a particular area. It is through this means that we have been able to provide connectivity, uninterfered connectivity of a particular frequency to our particular customers. And they are enjoying interference-free connectivity at the moment. So this is how we are really using it. So the question from you then is, how do we further develop this, and how do we,
Are you providing private networks to customers?
RAN, certainly. So this is a private...
Are you trialing network slicing?
Yeah, we are not trialing. We've implemented them already. So it is in the field today and it's working really well. So this is how we are capitalizing 5G at the moment. I did a bit of research on the Amazon story, which you shared, right? And I think, there is a bit of debate there. Amazon is using what we call a citizens bandwidth spectrum. It's at the 3.6 gigahertz frequency. I'm not sure if these are firmly governed by the American government, right? And if this can be as clean a frequency when implemented. So a bit of more research has to be done, but my view and my take on the benefits of 5G would be certainly network slicing and frequency splicing. And these are something we can use. Having said that, Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7, new, coming up, not really trial yet, but these would function on a new spectrum as well. And there's a lot of papers on how these frequencies can be kept clean. So watch this space, I guess, as a carrier, as a solutions architect. These are some of the areas we will look at, right? And yeah, who knows? 5G might be obsolete if 6E and 7 comes into play. And if it's certainly a cheaper solution as well, we don't know. But otherwise, there are other technologies that are coming to disrupt 5G. But I'm just happy that technologies are improving and it's really creating better value for our customers, right? Coming back to the main point again, I think ultimately what we are trying to always do here is to create that value for customers. That value, right? And whoever that can provide an end-to-end service with the correct SLAs promised will be the winner. That's my view.
Paolo, is there any views from Cato on how to exploit private 5G networks?
Well, I don't want to be too simplistic, but in the 5 pillar of SASE, there is a pillar all edges. So you have to be able to deliver those networking and security services independently from the access technologies the end user is using. So what we are seeing as a SASE provider, we are seeing a rise, of course, of users working remotely, and what I would use as a terms is that there is also a shifting in the user experience, in the sense that today the remote user is no more a remote user, a B-serious employee that works in best effort, is a branch of one. You have to consider the employees that is on 5G as somebody as it was or is or she was working in the enterprise environment. So there's high speed, but you have to deliver the same level of service with the same experience and with the same security services. So this is what we are seeing. We need to improve the experience for the remote users. We have to protect all the endpoints. And so we are now introducing a controlled release, a new functionality that is the endpoint protection. It's not new again, it is endpoint protection. There are many vendors, but the thing that is new is that is integrated, converged in our platform. And so you can control from the endpoint security, up to the infrastructure, up to the cloud application. And the other element where we are observing because of the 5G is the explosion of the connected objects. So you need to be able to allow this object to connect and to protect them. And this is a combination because you cannot install a client to set up encryption of the object or the connected object. So how you can force the traffic, how you can recognize the object that is connected to your cloud. And this is pushing us to work on the data lake. So because we have a huge visibility on the transaction from the network security, from the network and the security, we have a huge data lake of all our customers, and we are improving our, always the trendy words, artificial intelligence, but the deep learning or machine learning and algorithm to be able to work on this data lake, to recognize any kind of endpoint, and then to recognize any attack, and nearly in real time stop those attacks.
Including objects.
Including objects.
And this, of course, opens all the discussion on IoT. There are the last few minutes. Is there any question from the audience on the subjects we discussed? No. Last statement from you, Paolo, on the subjects, considering also let's say the impact on the architecture, the telecom architecture that these services, 5G, private networks, SASE, security is bringing. So which are from network architecture, the basic message that you like to share with us on these subjects?
Again, I want to make a small example. 1 year ago, I joined Cato Networks. We were able to ingest in one single tunnel 1 gigabit of traffic per site per customer. 5 months later, we grow up to 5 gig. End of the year, we will go up to 10 gig. This shows how is evolving very quickly the networking infrastructure and how.
Sorry, as an engineer, this means that the network architecture is not only a matter of capacity or the link down.
Exactly, no, it's
all the chain.
Exactly, it's all the chain behind. So you need to be able to deliver all your security services, decrypt in real time a 10 gig flow, apply all their security engine, and at the same time guaranteeing the same performance to the enterprise customers. And that is coming from having a cloud infrastructure that has to be thought from the beginning to be scalable and to be single pass integrated. Means that the more and more we will go in the future, we'll extend our point of presence. Today we have 80 point of presence around the world, but every quarter we add additional point of presence because the users are more and more spread around the world, and to minimize the latency you have to be the nearest possible to your end users. So there is an impact from the networking on this evolution, and there is also an impact on the security side. And where we are focusing today, and again, where we are going as our roadmap is to improve everything that is about AI on the data lake to improve and to better serve and to better protect our customers. So I would say these are the axes that I see. One last thing is, and we were discussing maybe a few days ago, is also how is going to evolve the routing. We are moving from the on internet is not the best effort, is the cheapest path that is chosen, and this is changing. This is changing because we, through our backbone, we can optimize the routing, but at the same time, what we are doing, we are opening our POP and we are opening cross-connect to the POP of service providers, so they can leverage the intelligent routing and deliver us the traffic to protect while they're going to internet. So these are the thematics that I am seeing as an evolution of the SASE world, the routing, the speed, and the cybersecurity functionalities.
Routing, as you know, is always an issue on my head, considering all these different planes, but there is no time. Lionel, your latest statement from the Singtel position in terms of, let's say, how the network architecture, the Singtel network architecture changes in this scenario we have been discussing.
Yeah, so didn't quite understand your question, sorry, but I think as a parting word, right? Yeah, so we see such a big evolution of the network from about 5 years ago. And also just want to add to the topics as well. I think ESG, right? Environmental, social, governance, it's something which we really have to bear in mind as well. So in Singtel, we are very conscious of this. We are trying to see how we can reduce our carbon footprint. Part of this is really to put as many things as we can into the cloud, where resources can be shared to reduce the carbon footprint. We're trying to move our customers away from having multiple appliances within their edge as well, right? Consolidate them into a UCPE, put in, right? It's good to do this, number one, but also very importantly, help them monitor this, right? Because those who are into ESG Scope 1 is easy. Scope 2 is quite a bit tougher. So we are really trying to work towards Scope 2 as well and help our customers work towards the 2050 goals. So IoT, right? This is where IoT comes in as well, right? On that particular topic, IoT, place a SIM card. And these devices as well, if they're out in the field or if they're anywhere, let's monitor our carbon emission, right? Something very key. Let's do this for ourselves now and the future too. Okay, so just a parting word here.
Thank you, Lionel. Thank you. If there is once more no question, thank you very much. My last comment is on the basis of what we listened to before in the previous session, in the previous panel, and today for sure we will not get bored in the future. That's clear. Thanks a lot once more to all of you.
Thank you.